Students, welcome to another Mr. Ness screencast. Today's aim is Black nationalism, and here are your objectives. Please pause the video, look these questions over, and get ready to copy some vocab terms and take some notes. In the previous lesson, you learned about some methods of nonviolence that were used to create change during the Civil Rights Movement, and you also learned about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was the main face of the nonviolent approach. Today, you're going to look at other activists in the civil rights movement who disagreed with Dr. King and favored different approaches. The activists that you're about to learn about promoted something called Black nationalism, which is a movement advocating racial pride and economic self-sufficiency for African Americans. Unlike Martin Luther King, who envisioned a future of integrated racial harmony between blacks and whites, Black nationalists viewed whites with suspicion and argued that racial harmony was impossible. Instead, these activists thought that black people should focus on obtaining economic, cultural, and political independence. Also, many black nationalists rejected King's ideas of nonviolence. Now, that doesn't mean that they advocated violence, but they did argue that if faced with violence from white people, black people should not hesitate to defend themselves. The ideas of black nationalism were attractive to many African Americans, especially after the assassination of Martin Luther King in 1968. This is Malcolm X, a black nationalist leader of the civil rights movement. He was born Malcolm Little, and when he was young, white people burned his family's home to the ground and likely murdered his father. And after his father's death, Malcolm's mother had a mental breakdown and was committed to a mental institution, leaving Malcolm and his siblings to grow up in foster care and orphanages. So you can see why he was skeptical of Martin Luther King's views on racial integration with whites. Malcolm X criticized King and other civil rights leaders for cooperating with white people, saying that they were, quote, trying to crawl back onto the plantation. If you're afraid of black nationalism, he said, you're afraid of revolution. And if you love revolution, you love black nationalism. The other black nationalist group that I want you to know about is called the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party was a militant organization that, like other activists during the civil rights movement, fought for civil rights for African Americans. Militant means confrontational, and compared to the more passive approach of leaders like Martin Luther King, the Black Panthers were not afraid to demand their civil rights, even if doing so made white people uncomfortable. The Panthers, too, rejected nonviolence. And in this picture, you can see some members of the Black Panther Party carrying guns. Again, I don't want you to think that these people advocated violence, but they were ready to use violence if necessary to defend themselves. You will learn more about the Black Panthers and Malcolm X in class. And now it's time to review the objectives. Let me go back. If you don't know the answer to any of them, just rewind the video and look again. And I will see you in class. Bye, students.